obviously I'm going to be generalizing here.
Yeah.
I think I often get a more sense of professionalism about equipment from the compound side than I do the recurve. So often I can meet, especially a youngster who's made it onto the British team, maybe even winning medals, and I ask them about their equipment and they know nothing. They just don't know what their brace height is. They don't know what. I just put it to that line there. They just don't.
Yeah.
Whereas often the compounds are far more professional in testing and knowing what their bow is set up and what works and what doesn't. Now, of course, we know the people who spend too much time on their equipment, but I meet so many recurves where it's almost suffering from neglect because people, oh, what string do you use? Oh, the same string I've used for the last 5 years.
The one from the shop
champion told me. And that's so. Yeah, I think a lot of the recurves could do better by the professional, the test, try something and test. I hate it when someone like says they buy a new button and they just get rid of their old one, or they trade it in at the shop, or they trade in their old pair of limbs and buy a new pair of limbs. No testing, no proof that it works. They just upgrade and move on, whereas there's no evidence. And the amount of times over the years I've seen someone take a nosedive and they can't go back because I sold my limbs. That's how I paid for the new ones. Yeah, and I do understand that it's tough on a budget, but you do need to test and prove things. Even changing your flexions, the amount of times someone's changed it to a different make just because it looks cool in fluorescent.
Someone else is shooting it.
I know that can make 5 points over 3 dozen.
Yeah,
10 points on a 720. You can't afford to throw away 10 points like that, or maybe you've gained 10 points. But if you don't know, but I think the compounds are much better at that.
Yeah,
because people like fiddling. Yeah, and if people like fiddling, they generally end up with a compound because it is more technical. It attracts that type of person, whereas maybe the recurve attracts a person who wants to be more fluid and more about the shot, and that will bring them success as well. So that's the difference.
No, that's really
that's my little.
Yeah. And do you think there's like a benefit? Because I see, obviously, we didn't really have Instagram as much way back, that it wasn't really that easy to see what other people were doing, that kind of thing on social media. But now I see a lot more of the top archers also doing a little bit of compound, maybe a little bit of cross training with, some of the top recurve archers doing a bit of cross training with compound, doing some stuff like that. Do you think there's benefit to that for recurve archers?
I do. And to be honest with you, I regret not continuing that. I'd done lots of that when I was younger, and then when I became serious and professional, I stopped doing that. Whereas I think my club, we had the monthly postal leagues, and I'd shoot both disciplines, and I really think I should have continued that. I should have continued to shoot both, because also compound, when you're shooting a surprise shot, teaches you that feeling of you're not worried about when the shot's going to go off. You're just going to keep on pulling, and you're going to feel that explosion. And I definitely could have done with bringing some of that into my recurve shot to make this a bit more dynamic instead of a bit dead, which is always what I feel when I go back and watch those videos. Yeah, so I think if you can afford it, and you're shooting both is great. They're both fascinating sides to the sport, and it gives you a break from one, gives you an insight into another. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've only shot compound literally once or twice, but it kind of blasted through all the preconceptions I had about it. So I remember thinking, I'm just going to draw this compound back, just going to be rock steady, draw it back, sit here, and then just squeeze and shoot. And I thought it was going to be walk in the park, and really was not. Because the draw weight is so much lower at full draw, it was moving everywhere. I was like, why is it just wobbling so much? There's so much more control in the bow arm and the pressure point in the grip, and really making that fine. That I think can translate over as well, because some of the recurve archers that I work with and in my coaching, I'll see sometimes during the shot they might draw up and the pressure point shifts, and I feel like when that's happening there, and then I can see it happening at the expansion as well. On a compound, if you do that in the expansion because it's so light, I don't really know because I'm so bad at compound. But I imagine that would completely hit the
it's
scope
more sensitive.
Up.
It is more sensitive. You can notice these things. It is, and there's only been a few of us changeover. But there is there is some successful people out there who have done both to a high level. Brady Ellison is the best example. The World Indoor Championships in 2005, where I qualified first. He qualified first on the. I believe. The internet will tell me I'm wrong probably, but I think he won the Junior World Championship that year. He certainly qualified first. I think he won. So he's gone from a compound world champion, junior, to now, he's fairly good with a recurve, isn't he?
Yeah.